What's up, guys? War here. Welcome back to the channel. So the Path of Exile team just 2 hours ago released the patch notes, and I've had to go over this, make notes, and just kind of look at absolutely everything. So in today's video, we are going to be breaking down a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of information in here. So I'm not going to go over every single thing in complete detail, but we are going to go ahead and highlight a lot of the really cool things in here, although I use cool lightly because this is a patch full of nerfs. There's nerfs across the board with some cool changes that I'm interested to see what happens. So keep that in mind, but no like shade to the devs, guys, because they did mention that, you know, everything is going to be changed. The game is going to be completely different, and they wanted our numbers to be a lot smaller. They didn't want it to get as crazy as Path of Exile 1 to some degree. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and break this down, because if you guys going through and read this, I'll leave this link down in the description below. But everything is absolutely nerfed. Like, all of the numbers are nerfed across the board, just to let everybody know. But let's get into it. Let's go ahead and break some stuff down. Let's get this important information coming up, because this does go live in 2 days. So the Dawn of the Hunt League, it is going to begin in 2 days on the 4th. You can start with a fresh and new economy wipe for the Dawn of the Hunt League. All of your old characters from early access are still present, but a free passive tree refund has been granted due to these changes. Would highly encourage you to join the new leagues fully take on the interest, meaning like you create a brand new character, you start from completely scratch, because the standard, hardcore, and self-found variations of the Dawn of the Hunt leagues are available, which means that like you can still play like the normal, or let's say like the core version, and not have to go play the season, and you can still experience a lot of this stuff. Please note that this is the only time that they are going to do this. This is the only time that they're doing that. Going forward, every single new league, you will have to start a brand new character. It will not be available in the core version. You will have to start a new character to play the league and play all the new content and changes, which is one thing I love about GGG and the leagues, because making brand new league content available for core players that don't want to play the new league is dumb, because it does not give an incentive to play the new league when you could just play with your 9 or 12 100 level characters and just smash the game in an hour, smash all the new content in an hour. So with that out of the way, just keep that in mind. This is the only time it's going to happen. Of course, you guys know about the Huntress coming. We got the new ascendancies coming with the Huntress, as well as the new classes. So I think that's really, really cool. All the new content that they've already gone over in that video, which is great. But a lot of the end game changes that they mentioned in that video are all completely broken down here in detail. So if you guys want to go over this, you definitely can with all the different iterations. But a lot of this we already know. But what we want to get to is the Atlas tree, some general improvements, the classes, and all that good stuff. So they now have 40 Atlas skill points. We increased from 30 to 40, which is great. And they've added a bunch of new stuff here for the new league. So notables that can do rogue exiles, the spirits. These are going to be things that you can do to increase all of this stuff, because we are going to need more points, because they did add to the passive tree itself, which is fantastic. So, and then they made some changes to previous ones that are already here, in particular the extreme archaeology one, because I'm telling you, expedition is going to be huge in this new league. Coming down, they got some general improvements here. Player changes. Now, from this point on, you're going to see a whole bunch of nerfs. So players are required to be level 25 to enter Cruel, and 50 to enter the end game. Okay, now there's some increases here. Freeze and build up is now 48% slower. You're going to see a lot of these huge nerfs in here. So something like freeze, which has been like a huge impact in the game currently, especially with the Herald meta, like freeze now takes way longer to build up, so it's harder to freeze enemies to a degree. So just keep that in mind. The worn sandals, the secummas, a lot of stuff, including items, has been significantly increased. For example, the last flame relic inside the trials is now 10% harder to actually find. Okay, so they got a lot of these heavy stun mechanics now on here, which hurts us. Like, we can be heavy stun for 3 seconds instead of 1. So now it hurts us. We need to make sure that we're playing more strategically, instead of more like mindless, I'm just going to press my one button and win. So that's good. Ascendancy changes. The Titan got actually a buff. This is one of the few buffs that you will see in these patch notes, guys. So Titan might actually be pretty insane next season. So Titan got a nice little buff. Warbringer had some okay things. Gemling Legionnaire did receive a huge nerf, guys, but I still think that the Gemlinger or stat stacking, which has been like a huge meta right now, is still going to be viable. They do change some stuff here, guys, where like no longer provides +1. It is now a choice between +2 to all skills with a strength requirement, a dex requirement, or an intelligence requirement, which just means that it's buffed with a number, but it does require a certain attribute requirement in order to get that bonus. So it is like a nerf buff to that to some degree. So I still think Stat Stacker is going to be just okay, but it probably isn't going to be as strong as it was last season. No build that we have this current going on this league is going to be as strong as it was last season. So Witch Hunter got some cool stuff. Deadeye didn't really like. Ranger didn't really receive any nerfs, so I think Ranger's still going to be cool. Pathfinder did take the huge hit. All the concoction versions of the build are all significantly nerfed. However, I will say that the poison concoction is getting, there's one change that's going to be really good for changing it from chaos damage to physical damage. So on the initial hit, if you stack up enough physical damage, that initial hit of poison or the magnitude of poison will apply a lot. So I don't think it'll be too bad, but everything in Pathfinder did get, like, as far as the concoction builds, did receive a huge nerf. The Invoker was fine. The Acolyte is just okay. It's all right. Blood Mage received a little bit of its, like, a nerf with add some, provides 10% of the damage gains as extra physical damage and causes bleeding. Infernalist, a lot of this changed, guys. There's a lot of things here. The Infernalist did receive a huge change. I mean, it's just really tough to play Infernalist now. So we'll have to see how this works out with everything on here. But there is some cool stuff in here, I will say. Like, the Pyromantic Pack active ascendancy skill now causes 50% of Infernal Flame to be lost per second. If none was gained in the past 2 seconds, it was 10. So this is like a huge nerf. You know what I mean? So it's like passive skill now causes 50% of the flame instead of 10. So it's a huge nerf. So we'll have to see how that goes. Chronomancer, this ascendancy just was not like super great. So I don't know how well these are going to do, but we'll see. Stormweaver, which was the main sorceress's ascendancy that everybody took. Small nerfs here, guys. Small nerfs. Scouring nerf to 12% instead of 20. Force of Will is instead of 25, it's 25 now instead of 15. So that was a nerf. Strike Twice is now instead of 50, it's now 25% less magnitude instead of shock duration. The small mana ascendancy passive skills no longer provide 4%. It's now 12% increased mana regeneration rate. So we can't like mana stack to a degree. So small nerfs there. Now, with the addition of the Huntress, the other game mechanics have changed. There are many new clusters, mostly in the Huntress Ranger area of the skill tree, and many existing passive skills have been updated. For those who don't know, Huntress is going to be located over on the passive tree next to the Ranger. And they're going to use a lot of the similar skills, which is going to be cool. So if you guys are Ranger players, this is going to be kind of nice. So they've added a bunch of clusters here. So you guys will see these on the passive tree. So that's pretty cool. Now let's go ahead and slow down because this is a lot of just like changes to those passive notables. So this is where things get crazy. I don't want this video to go too long because if you guys really want to read through this, you definitely can because it did take me a long time. But skill changes. This is the main line. Many skills have had their base damage and or damage growth per level rebalanced. Most of the changes are not specifically mentioned below as the changes were too widespread. The devs did say that they were changing the numbers on absolutely everything. Every skill, every gear piece, absolutely everything across the board, which is why when you read through this or just glaze over this like overview that I'm giving you guys, everything is completely nerfed. So but there is some light, right? So the mana cost for all attacks, marks, and war cries have been reduced, most notably at higher gem levels. So that's a good thing, right? But when you start to come down here, like everything is reduced. Everything. There's very few things that get a buff. Everything is reduced, right? Banner skills have like, this is a small buff, 0.5 meters, but barrage, 50% less damage. So like, a lot of this is super nerfed, right? Combat Frenzy, absolutely nerfed into the gutter. I mean, maybe not the gutter, but it was nerfed, right? Concoction skills now require an unarmed weapon set, which means you can no longer use the Widow Hail. Can't use that at all. Can't use the Quiver. Can't use any of that stuff. And now Instead of using 3 mana flasks, it now uses 5. So that is a big nerf. Every single curse has this exact same line applied to it. Instead of 32%, it is now, or up to 36% at Gem 20. It is now 25% to start at. So it's a significant nerf. I mean, we're talking about 11%, which is huge. A lot of the stuff that have radius nerfs, right, or delays. So 1.6 meters, it was previously 7 meters. So like cold snap, like this is a buff, excuse me. Curses now apply after a delay. So instead of 1 second, now it's 1.5. So it's a small nerf. So a lot of this stuff is just nerfed down here. Explosive Concoction now does a bigger magnitude. Fireball no longer, it bypasses the Raging Spirit limit. Firebolt now has a maximum. There is some cool things in here, but like Flame Wall, a big nerf to Flame Wall, now causes projectiles to pass through the deal only 38 to 48, as opposed to the 64 to 91. So this is good for like leveling, but in the end game, having a high level firewall just doesn't really matter. Again, same with the curse here, guys. See how it's the same thing, right? There's a lot of big nerfs here with freeze buildup, galvanic shards, gas arrow. They have a limit of 6 poison clouds now. But galvanic shards converts 60% instead of 40, so that's a small buff. That's pretty cool. So there's a lot of things here. Grim Feast no longer be engraved in the gem cutting menu. Existing Grim Feast gems now have been disabled. We aim to rework this in the future, so we no longer have Grim Feast. Now here's one that's kind of crazy. Hammer of the Gods no longer has a cooldown, but requires 20 glory. You only get glory as a resource. It gets built up by heavy stunning enemies. The amount of glory gained is based on the stun power's monster, or the stun monster's power, and then quality doesn't impact radius. Previously 1% cooldown recovery rate. So something like this is like no longer cooldown is crazy, but being able to having to get glory in order to use it is kind of nuts too. So we'll have to see how that works out. The Herald of Ice, the explosion radius was reduced by 0.2 meters, and then Herald of Thunders was reduced. So these meters being reduced isn't the bad part. The thing is that they can't trigger off of each other anymore, meaning that Herald of Ice cannot cause Herald of Thunder to trigger and vice versa. So that's the big nerf there. Hex Blast, absolutely eviscerated to my degree. If I'm reading this correctly, it's eviscerated. You guys can pause the video, read this, and then let me know down in the comments if I'm just reading this wrong. But this just looks like Hex Blast is going to be, you can't use it. So let me know. Again, with the hypothermia nerf. So a lot of this stuff has been nerfed, but then there's small buffs. Like Leap Slam has a more stun buildup, and the previous was lower. So there is small lights in the darkness, guys. But do keep in mind that the devs did say that they were going to be doing this to absolutely everything, right? So even Lightning Arrow, one of the favorite builds I like to play, Lightning Rod now can only be chained 6 times total instead of up to 14 times. So that's different. There's a lot of nerfs in here, guys. A lot of nerfs. Shattering Concoction has more freeze buildup instead of the 100. So it's almost like they want to get us off Poison Concoction. So we'll have to see how that goes. Spark, big nerf on Spark, guys, to some degree. You now fire less projectiles, 4 to 9 instead of 6 to 14. And then up to a 19% increased projectile speed from quality. This actually goes to 30. So less projectiles, but more projectile speed. So we'll have to see how that goes. I still think Spark is going to be just fine. Stormcaller's got a huge nerf, which kind of sucks. Tempest Bell, huge nerf to a degree. It does overall top end damage, but it does require more of a combo. Instead of hitting it 4 times to hit it and get the max, you got to get to 10. So big nerf there, kind of. Toxic Growth, big nerf here, I believe. So it got nerfed by arrows, and then the quality and the base radius, all that was nerfed. So this is kind of interesting to see how this is going to go. But again, guys, they wanted our numbers to be less, so they did tell us everything was going to get nerfed. So down here to support changes, there is a lot of support changes here. I do think a lot of these aren't going to be as bad, so I'm not too worried about that. The unique item changes is where people are freaking out as well. So things like Astromantis has been changed. This is a nerf. So instead of 80 to 100, it's 50 to 100. Everlasting Gaze did get a increase in mana regen, so that's nice. The Hand of Wisdom and Action gloves changed slightly. Instead of 3%, it's 1%, and it's per 20 decks instead of 25. So slight change. So I still think that the Hand of Wisdom and Action gloves will still be fine. Ingenuity got a huge change, guys, to go with the brand new Ascendancy where you get to have a third ring slot. So it no longer has this bonus, but it has a 20 to 30% increase bonuses gained from left ring and 20 to 30 from right ring. And then it adds charm slots and a increased charm slots gain and reduced. So it is kind of interesting to see how this is going to play out. These are probably going to be still sought after with the new Ascendancy, but huge change on Ingenuity. The Last Flame Relic has been changed with an increase as well as rarity. You can see it right here. But then all the soul core changes got done. So all of those numbers got changed. So a lot of the existing stuff isn't too bad. Like the uniques and stuff, not too bad. One other one is the Pillar of the Cage God. So 1% increased attack speed per 10 dex and 1% increased area effect per 10 intelligence. Both were previous 2, so that was nerfed. It now provides 10% increased weapon damage per 10 strength instead of per 5. So it is a slight nerf, but I still think stat stacking and Pillar of the Cage God is going to be just fine. It just isn't going to be as good as it was before, but it's still pretty solid. If anything, Pillar of the Cage God will still be a great way to stat stack through the campaign to get you into the end game. So big changes there. A lot of item changes that they did go over, guys, with the double rate of runes. Jeweler's Orb, so if you have a perfect orb, you can just quickly unlock your skill to 6, and you don't have to go through the progression, which is nice. So a lot of this is still really good. A lot of monster changes, I'm not going to go over that too much, guys. I don't want the video to be too long, but yeah. Quest changes here as you're going through, very nice, and then some interface changes, microtransaction changes, as well as bug fixes. So this is just a brief overview, guys. I did not want to go in depth with a lot of things because I don't want to get super like excited or over exaggerating or make things seem like they're so much worse than they were before. Although there is a huge nerf to pretty much everything minus a few lights at the end of the tunnel. Expect the game to still feel pretty good, I would think. I'm very excited to play the new Huntress class and just have a lot of fun with all of these changes. So with that said, guys, like the video, comment down below, let me know what you guys think, and as always, stay gaming. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.